Good morning. It is now 11:03 a.m. Calling the roll for Nan Baker. Here. Dale Miller. Here. Trevor Macular serving as an alternate for Dan Brady. Here. Mike Dever. Here. Lisa Rocco serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Lenora Lockett.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the November 4th Board of Control meeting? Any questions, concerns? Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Minutes approved. Is there any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Thank you.
Moving and excuse me, no tabled items. Moving on to new items for review. Item number BC 2019-821, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 47237 and enter into an agreement with Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority in the amount not to exceed $120,000 for the purchase of a maximum of 70,000 gallons of unleaded 87 octane fuel. And it's for the period October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2022.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This item where we're looking to enter into an agreement with Greater Cleveland RTA. It's a government-to-government purchase. It's for fuel for our Sheriff's Division. We've historically been in an agreement with them due to their proximity to downtown. It's a effective and efficient avenue for the Sheriff's Division to fill up their vehicles.
Are there any questions? Councilman Miller? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-822, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 47153 and to enter into a contract with Fulton and Associates Balance Company in the amount not to exceed $40,000 for testing and balancing of the hot water heating system on floors 1 through 9 in Tower 2 of the Justice Center complex, located at 1300 Ontario Street in Cleveland. And it's for the period November 4th, 2019 through November 3rd, 2020.
Good morning, Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This item is a supporting contract for our capital renovation of the mechanical systems in the Tower 2 building. We have just replaced the hot water distribution loop in the mechanical room, and this contract will balance that water flow. We've got 2 new pumps that replaced 9 existing pumps, so a change in distribution there. We're making sure we've got the water flow to the entire building. That's what this contract will perform.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-823, Department of Development, submitting an amendment to a contract with Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation for administration of the demolition of vacant, abandoned, nuisance, or blighted structures for various municipalities in connection with Round 8 of the Cuyahoga County Property Demolition Program. And it's for the period October 15th, 2018 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2020, to add the City of North Royalton and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $75,000.
Good morning, Sarah Parks Jackson with the Department of Development. Now that we have amended both program issues so that the programs both go to 2020, we are now asking for the amendment of various contracts to extend those to 2020. This is for the land banks contract that they do with the cities, which will extend it to 12/31/2020. We are also adding $75,000 for the City of North Royalton at their request. To date, the demolition program has committed $52,529,023.70, and that commitment is over the $50 million because what happens when the city does not use all of their funds, we recommit them. So that if they only use 500, we put that 500 back into the program. So our balance today is $2,862,000 $33.08.
Are there any questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Yes. The original amount of, the legislative amount for the program is 50 million. 50 million? Yes. We have awarded in contracts. Yes. That's correct. Then that's where that rollover of funds that don't get used get rolled back into the program.
Any additional questions? Mr. McAleer?
Sir, do you know how much has actually been spent, though? I mean, because we have the rollover funds, but how much have we actually, it's the 30.6 million, is that right?
That's actually spent, yes.
Okay. And do we know out of the remaining 20 million to get us to the 50? Because we're not going to spend 52. We've just awarded 52.
That's correct.
How much of the remaining 20 we are anticipating on spending out of the awarded amount?
I think out of that 20, I would render a guess that between the cities and the land bank, that they will expend at least about 18 million.
Okay, so leaving us about 2 million left to be able to reissue.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
The next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2019-824, Department of Workforce Development. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47152, which will result in an award recommendation to Thrive Behavioral Health Center, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $70,000 for recruitment, education, and training services to address the opioid crisis in accordance with the National Health Emergency Disaster Recovery National Dislocated Worker Grant. And it's for the period November 15th, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Lauren Carey with Workforce Development. We are looking to contract with Thrive to hire 20 WIOA eligible participants. The average wage is $16 an hour, and these are for peer recovery coaches or support workers. There's been an increase in need for these workers in the system due to the opioid epidemic.
Okay, are there any questions? Yes, Nora?
Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. This vendor, they're not registered with the Inspector General, so I just want to make sure that they, since it's going to be over 10,000, they'll need to become registered with the Inspector General.
Councilwoman?
I have a question with that. So we have an exemption for our employers. This would not apply, is that what you're?
Lenora Lockett again. Yeah, I'm reading the exemption, and the exemption says for employers participating in the department's workforce on-the-job training program, and this is a separate. They're not.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Baker.
So just so I understand, this is for a 3-month period?
No, from November 15th of this year through June 30th of 2020.
And do you expect that this would be renewed at the end of June?
The grant, we're not sure if the grant will be extended, so at this time, I can't say for sure.
So what will happen to the hires that you're hiring? Is that just only until June 30th of 2020?
They will become employed by Thrive, so
Okay.
we're paying for the recruitment and the training
Okay,
of them.
so the money is just for the recruitment and training?
Yes.
Got it.
Thrive is able to use, I believe it's Medicaid dollars to reimburse once they become a full employee with them.
Okay, recruitment, education, and training. Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Ms. Lockett?
Lenora Lockett again.
Yes.
So again, if you want to clarify with the Inspector General, but just in my reading of the exemption, but based on further details, it may qualify for an
Okay.
exemption.
All right.
anything further? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All in favor? Yes, Councilman Miller.
Contingent on the issue with the Inspector General being
The
resolved.
passage? Yes, so I should make a new motion then. Okay, so I will then strike that, make a new motion that we will approve the item upon review of the Inspector General and his approval. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes with the contingency.
Next item, item number BC 2019-825, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Mental Health Services for Homeless Persons, Inc., doing business as Frontline Service, for implementation and management of the Coordinated Intake and Assessment Program for homeless individuals and families, and is for the period January 1st, 2018 through May 31st, 2020, to extend the time period to August 31st, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $241,228.
Good morning, Shari Weir, Office of Homeless Services. This is just a request for an amendment to the existing contract to extend the time period for 3 months and to add the additional funds. This contract was awarded through an RFP process. We will do an RFP again for the start of a new contract term.
Okay, are there any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Just curious why the original contract didn't take us to 8/31/2020, if that was...
Oh, because the funds that are being added had not been appropriated at that point.
Okay, so the 241,000 is for 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Next item, Department of Health and Human Services, item number BC 2019-826, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 45810 and to enter into a contract with Community of Hope in the amount not to exceed $150,000 for trauma-informed team mentoring services for transition-age young adults who have and or are aging out of the foster care system in Cuyahoga County. And it's for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020.
Good morning, Chris Alexander, Department of Health and Human Services. On behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services, we are seeking to enter into a one-year contract with Community of Hope, again, offering trauma-informed wraparound team mentoring services. There was an advanced question on this contract regarding why there was only one response. OPD did send out the RFP that was competitively procured in July to 37 organizations. None of them, to our knowledge, actually offer this type of mentoring model. The one response that we did receive does have experience doing this for about 3 years. The highly specialized mentoring model targets a very specialized population as well. These are youth that have been in the care of DCFS and or are aging out of that care. Just wanted to add that the contracted youth outcomes include maintaining stable housing during the program, establishing a social support system, accessing medical care, employment and or school enrollment, and youth empowerment.
Are there any questions? Mr. McAleer.
Chris, good morning. On the back, is Community of Hope part of Cleveland State University? Is that what I'm...
No, they're a private, or they're a nonprofit organization. Their offices currently are housed on the campus of Cleveland State.
Okay, and is this the same person that runs Open Table?
It is. It's, yes, the executive director is Amber Donovan. When we supported the Open Table model, they were not a nonprofit organization yet, and she has since filed and has been approved as a nonprofit organization.
But this is not, this is a different, This is different than the open table,
So yeah.
or is it the same thing?
It's a variation on the theme. Open Table is a copyrighted model based on lessons learned and best practices in the first 3 years of the project. They tweaked that model, and now it's called the Hope Model.
And then, could you talk, who are the other vendors that came to the pre-bid conference? I think you mentioned there were 5 or so. that came.
Sure.
I was just trying to get an idea of what other vendors would be interested in this.
I know Ohio Guidestone was on top of the list. Ohio Guidestone, Catholic Charities, College Now, Community of Hope, and Learning for Life. Again, a lot of the organizations that we did have on our vendor list do provide mentoring services. They're generally the traditional one-on-one mentoring, Boys and Girls Club, those kinds of things. So this is a highly unique model. To our knowledge, it's not really offered anywhere in Cuyahoga County.
And do we have any evaluations from the open table contracts that we have, like any?
Well, I can give you our most recent quarter outcome report. At the end of the quarter that ended in October, they had 45 actively supported tables. In terms of performance outcomes, they have met or exceeded all of the benchmarks. And a little more specifically, 91% of the youth that were engaged in the program obtained or maintained stable housing while active in the program. Our benchmark was 80%. Of the youth that are engaged in the program, 91% attended all scheduled meetings for at least 9 months. The county benchmark was 75% of the youth. In terms of increased social support, the definition is youth will report an increased social support while active in the program. 100% youth did so on the survey. Our benchmark was 75%. And in terms of employment, education, and training, youth will be involved in work or school. Our benchmark was 80%, and 100% were currently working and/or in school.
And Chris, were those our benchmarks, or was it an independent review on the progress, or how were those numbers determined? I mean, did we use CASE or someone to?
Exactly. Normally, we use national benchmarking against similar programs. Since it's such a new program, we just use our best knowledge available for this type of service. So again, they met or exceeded. I have several more if you'd like me to send those to you. But yeah, those were based on our best knowledge.
One last question.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the past when open table has come up, we've been presented that it's basically proprietary.
Correct.
How was the RFP written then? If they're the only ones that can, I would say, provide that service, was it just written as in terms of mentoring services, or did we?
That's a great question. So we did not call it the open table model. We were not issuing a request for proposals for open table specifically. We called it a team mentoring wraparound service model.
And then how does this contract compare to years past in terms of the open table amount?
In terms of activities?
No, dollar amount.
Oh, dollar amount is the same. It was the original contract year was $75,000. As the program expanded, which is interesting because the youth, they work with the youth until the youth are done working with them. So there's kind of not a very quick exit. That's why they have currently 45 tables. It's been at $150,000 for the past 2 years.
I have a question.
Councilwoman Baker?
So, just so I understand, is this replacing open table?
Essentially, yes.
It is.
Yes,
So
they're working with the same youth that entered the program under the open table model. Again, it's really a variation using most of the similar and same activities.
Okay, so you won't be coming back to us for funding for open table?
Correct.
Okay, and how many students is served for the 150,000?
So they have 45 active youth right now. Each youth has a mentoring table, as they refer to it, of 6 to 8 mentors. So an average of 300 or so active volunteers that we have acting as mentors. For the new program year, they hope to serve 15 new youth.
So up to about 60?
Mm-hmm.
And what percentage of that would you say captures the amount of youth that are in the aging out?
I don't have that information, but I can get it more specifically. They do track a lot of the demographics on the youth as they enter the program, so my sense is we have that information.
Just be curious if it was 25% or 50%, or are we higher than that, or 10%? How many are we actually capturing and helping them? I like the program. I think these students or these young people do need more after they reach 18, so I support the initiative. I just was curious about how many we actually capture.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Chris, would it be possible for you to send over the rest of the evaluation stuff?
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
And then, have we always got 30% for reimbursement?
As far as I know, the breakdown has been the same. Or, I'm going to apologize. I will double check. I think it might have been 100% levy dollars in the past.
That's what I thought. Yeah, and I guess what changed in terms of allowing us to be able to get reimbursed?
I can find that out from you.
And then this contract doesn't start till January 1st, right?
Correct.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be a problem if I would request if we just hold it for one more week until I get the additional information? I didn't realize this was
Sure.
kind of the open table. I just wanted to talk it over with a couple of the council members.
We have time.
Okay, is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
We'll table this item.
Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2019-827, Court of Common Pleas Corrections Planning Board, submitting an amendment to an agreement with Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County for residential treatment services for offenders in connection with the Adult Probation Substance Abuse Residential Treatment Program. And it's for the period January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $500,000.
Good morning. Marty Murphy for the Corrections Planning Board. We're requesting approval of this agreement with the Adams Board in the amount of $500,000 for the residential substance abuse treatment offender population. This also requests an extension through June 30th of 2020.
Okay, are there questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Why for only 6 months? 500,000? Is there a reason why you're only going up?
We anticipate that the money will be gone by then. That's all we have. Actually, if you look at this particular contract and you go back about a couple budget cycles ago, there was $791,000 general fund dollars plus an additional around $600,000 of Smart Ohio grant dollars. As time progressed, the Smart grant dollars disappeared and the general fund was decreased. So it's never enough for this particular population.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All in favor? Opposed? Item passes.
Next item, item number BC 2019-828, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, recommending an award on requisition 45007 and to enter into a master contract with various providers in the total amount not to exceed $25,000 to conduct programming services for the behavioral diversion and education program for court-referred youth who receive sex offender assessment and treatment services. And it's for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2021 for the following providers: Applewood Centers, Inc. and Ohio Guidestone.
Good morning, Sarah Baker with Juvenile Court. The court issued an RFP for this program, for the Behavioral Diversion and Education Program. This is a program that will provide sex offender assessment and treatment services for youth who are under the age of 13 who may have offended against someone in the home, whether it be a sibling or another relative. And it is a community-based sex offender treatment, so the agencies will be going out to the homes and working with the families very, very closely and monitoring how things are going in the home. Applewood will be providing the evidence-based MST model, and Ohio Guidestone will be providing the PROTECT model that they have at their agency. In regards to the start date for this item, this is a Reclaim Ohio grant-funded project. So that grant starts on July 1st. However, we don't get notice of that award until after the fact, and then we're awaiting index codes, appropriations, things like that. And then we also put this item into On Base back on September 27th, and it was stuck for about a month, waiting for all of the approvals to occur in the queue. It was mostly stuck in OBM. And I think it was just a little bit of miscommunication, so that's the two main reasons for the delay in this contract.
Okay, are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-829, Sheriff's Department, submitting an amendment to a contract with Schwartz Uniform Corporation for correction officer, corporal, and sergeant uniforms for the period March 19th, 2018 through December 31st, 2021, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $200,000.
Laura Sims with the Sheriff's Department. The reason for the additional amendment is just because of all the additional hiring that we've had to do this year. There was a question about the amount, the range on the uniforms. It's $270 for a CO and $360 for the corporal and sergeant. So that would range between approximately 555 to 470 uniforms, depending on, how many of which ones we were going to be getting.
Okay, any additional questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Will this include more than just the new hires? Because this amount is more than what we're going to be hiring.
Yeah, there's the union contracts require uniforms as well, so that will cover that as well.
Good. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Next item, BC 2019-830, Sheriff's Department, submitting an amendment to a contract with Black Creek Integrated Systems Corp. for maintenance and support of multi-component security systems at the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center located at 9300 Quincy Avenue in Cleveland. And it's for the period January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $151,522.
Laura Sims with the Sheriff's Department again. This is the maintenance contract for the existing Black Creek system, the security and detention management system at the juvenile court. This will get us from January through December of the next year. And there were some questions about the follow-on contract. The Sheriff's Department is not taking the lead in the new contract development. The juvenile court is, so the questions would be better directed to them. I can tell you, though, in conversations with them that they are looking, talking to Black Creek right now and trying to get an estimate and scheduling a plan. So the two questions that I had gotten were a time frame and an estimated amount for the renovation, and those are in the works. They have not yet been developed as far as I know, but should be within the next week or two.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Moving on to exemptions, item number.
Andrew, can I just have one question on that? The funding source, I know it says Building Security Internal Services Fund. Are there any special revenue funds in that, or is it just general fund? Do you know?
So with the internal service fund, what we do is that's the chargeback to the agencies for,
Mm-hmm.
and so wherever they pay for it, that comes out of each agency decides how they pay that. I'm assuming mostly that comes from general fund.
That's what I would think for the court. I was just trying to plan based off the advanced question in terms of the resources that's going to be necessary for the upgrade sometime next year. But
well, the upgrade is definitely going to have to be a capital project, and so that would be separate from this funding, because this is only for maintenance on that. Project, I believe, is it's definitely going to have a capital project because the equipment is so old and the wiring is going to need re-replacement in the building and that kind of thing. That would be extensive.
thanks.
Okay. Do I do another motion?
Okay. No. Moving on to exemptions, item number BC 2019-831, Department of Public Works, recommending to amend board approval number BC 2019-13 dated January 7th, 2019, which amended board approval number BC 2017-36 dated January 17th, 2017, which authorized an alternative procurement process and resulted in purchase orders to various providers for medical, surgical, and animal care services for the period February 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2021, and they are now asking to change the not-to-exceed amount from $250,000 to $500,000.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This item, we're just looking to amend the alternate procurement process that we did for the kennel back in 2017. This gives us permissible, we'll say, funds to, it's basically an exemption from competitive bidding for the kennel. A lot of times it's for emergency services, surgical services that we can't really bid out. We do have multiple contracts in place with the kennel that do cover a lot of those services, but some of those vendors or business partners, they're not open on weekends, some of them are not evenings, some of them may not do some of the intricate procedures that's required at the kennel. So this is an alternative procurement process that exempts us from competitive bidding. Each one of the transactions that we do authorize actually does come back to the board as a department order, and we reference this alternative procurement at all times.
Questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Just trying to understand your explanation. So in 2019, which we're just finishing now, the amount was $25,000?
That's just what we're forecasting. So right now, the initial alternative procurement was for $250,000. I believe we're at $242,000. So in essence, we've got $8,000 that could come to the board as a DO, as some type of emergency service. We're just forecasting over the next month and a half, 2 months, we're going to need maybe $25,000 based on trends that we're seeing at the kennel as far as surgeries, procedures, medical needs, and then the 2020, 2021 for the until the end of this alternative procurement. That's just the forecast.
I understand. So this 25 is for the remainder 2 months?
It is. And those funds, they're not being encumbered right now because it's permissible. It's like an allowance, like a permissible, because we're not going out to bid. It's just a forecast.
Do we know how much we have spent this year?
This year I have to look, but since the beginning of this, it's been $242,000.
And the beginning of this was starting in
Early 2017.
17. Okay. Well, to need 25,000 more, I would think you'd know how much you spent in the last.
I can get back to you over the last 10 months.
Okay. Just
I would. I'm sorry.
If you're asking for 100 and then 125, it would be reasonable that you probably have spent 70 or 80,000.
We have spent, I don't want to use the word significant, but we have spent more money this year as opposed to the first year, because I believe we amended this once before just to extend the time with no money, and then now we're coming back for money because I think we have seen an influx for one reason or another. So, but I can get back to you those 10 months.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it, just to get an idea of what has been spent. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. McAleer?
Tom, we haven't gone over the amount though yet,
No.
right? Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, no. No, my tracker's showing 242,000. And all of those should have come to the board as DOs as well. So there's still visibility on the after side too.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All in favor? Opposed? Item passes.
Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2019-832, Sheriff's Department, recommending to amend board approval number BC 2019-622, dated August 19th, 2019, which authorized an alternative procurement process and resulted in award recommendations to various providers in the total amount not to exceed $40,000 for various purchases for food service operations in the jail kitchen. And it was for the period August 19th, 2019 through December 31st, 2021. They are now requesting to allow for the issuance and encumbrance of a single not-to-exceed department/purchase order for future payments to the following approved vendors: W.W. Granger, Inc. in the amount of $10,000, Josh and Paper and Packaging in the amount of $10,000, Dean Supply Company in the amount of $10,000, and Gordon Food Supply in the amount of $10,000.
Laura Sims with the Sheriff's Department again. These items that we already have an alternative procurement approved with this. This actually amends it so that we can encumber the funds in the amounts listed for each of these vendors.
Okay, questions? Mr. McAleer?
Laura, with the proposed food services contract vendor that I know we're rebidding, would the stuff that we're buying through these vendors go away with a selected vendor to run our food services, or is this additional stuff that would not be included under the new contract?
Both. Once the food goes away, some of the food items that we might need to purchase, like for example, if we ran out of milk, they would have to run out and get that right now. The new contract would take care of that. However, this also is for other things that we get from them. For example, the dishwasher broke and we had to get new, additional trays to serve the food on, and that came up. And then there was like a new regulation. We had to go out and buy some more hair nets and things like that. So these are for things that come up immediately. So there's additional products that we would use these for as well.
But we'll continue to be responsible for trays and the food nets and stuff,
Correct.
not the new vendor?
Not the new vendor, no.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McAleer, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Next item, item BC 2019-833, Sheriff's Department, recommending to amend Board Approval Number BC 2019-200, dated March 11th, 2019, which approved an alternative procurement process on requisition 44198 and resulted in an award recommendation to Daily Legal News for legal advertisements of notice of foreclosure sale for delinquent land taxes in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 2329.26. They're now requesting to change the time period from October 1st, 2018 through April 30th, 2023 to August 4th, 2018 through April 30th, 2023 to pay for an outstanding invoice.
Laura Sims from the Sheriff's Department. This is for an invoice, and I got the question. It's for $18,000. The issue is the invoice was lost between our office and their office. The agency didn't notify us until May of this year that's when they noticed that the missing invoice was there. By that time, we had already gotten the alternative procurement was approved in March of this year, and so we didn't even know about this till afterwards. So this will change that alternative procurement to August, and that will allow us to pay for this invoice that had gotten misplaced.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Councilwoman Baker?
So then we would assume that invoice is dated in August.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as presented. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Moving on to the consent agenda, item numbers BC 2019-834 through 840.
Okay, we'll take a moment to review. Are there any questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Is it customary, I guess I will just ask for procedure, that we would for example, BC 2019-838, have a general fund for funding source, but no funds are needed for an MOU? It just looks misleading that money is needed when it's not.
Becky Evie, Office of Innovation and Performance. We had 2 previous MOUs that went forward to you, and I think there was discussion at the initial executive committee meetings on those that while the MOUs did not have any dollars associated with them, the lab program does, and those are the $23,000 plus staff time that was approved in that other context. So any questions?
The dollars that were asked for earlier in Board of Control was approved for usage. I guess I thought that would be, just seems more procedural than.
I would defer to OPD on that.
At the request of Maggie Keenan, OBM, she had the question that she posed at executive review, and she wanted to have the funding amount reflect what the true actual amount would be because dollars are associated with the item.
Okay, is there a dollar amount that's associated with this then?
No.
No.
Just the $23,000 and the contract approved at last week's BOC.
The project as a whole,
The project
I'm
as
sorry.
a whole, though.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items, item 834 through 840. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dever. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Items pass.
Moving along, we did have other business. It was a mission critical item, but Hugh Shannon, the representative from the medical's office, is not here, so we will hold this until next week because the services have already been purchased, so he can explain better.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Thank you. Then I'll make a motion for adjournment. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned.